Welcome back to Secure River. We're in okay shape after Shiloh, sort of slowly putting the army back together. This battle is relatively easy, so we're going to use it to train up some new infantry, some new long range guns, and hopefully get very minimal casualties on our more experienced infantry. So I'm setting up all my long range guns in cover. The goal being to be able to spot the enemy artillery and kill it off without so that we don't take any damage when having to move our infantry out across open ground. This will be helped by the gunboats, which actually do pretty ridiculous damage on this map. They're probably too good here, but it works out well on other maps, so acceptable loss, I guess. This battle is pretty easy, even if they do nothing, so I didn't figure it was worth trying to change anything up for that. So we're just sliding the snipers over. We want to try and hit Jackson on the flank. The more units we can push north of the flag, the easier this will be. The goal is to try and get them all into the field in the northeast corner of the map. You don't have a lot of time here, but if you manage it well, you can get very close to a full clear or a full clear on the map. So sped everything up to X2. You can see it's a lot of sitting around and waiting for my artillery to kill things. We'll note if the AI spawns with enough spotting perks on its skirmishers or on its cavalry, uh, you will get revealed and you will take a ton of counter battery fire and get charged. Uh, in that case, you would probably actually need to use a fairly different setup for this battle. You'd have to pull your artillery further back and try and hit them from out of range and various other things, which would just slow you down a lot and you just wouldn't be able to get the full clear. So in this case, we got lucky and they cannot spot us. Um, so we can just get rid of them. This is part of the reason I put the extra point in reconnaissance, so that we would for sure be able to spot these units and clear them out. We're outnumbered about 2 to 1 to start. That's pretty normal for legendary. It did seem possible to trigger scaling quite a bit. If you went larger with the infantry, I was originally going with 1500 and for my new units, and found that I was facing additional 4000 enemy infantry, and I was pretty sure I wasn't going to be able to chew through those units in the time allotted, so that's why I ended up going a little smaller. So my goal is to swing around their left flank with some infantry, get into the trees, and then have those units be the ones that take all of the actual fire. If played if played correctly and you get a little lucky, you can probably have these units in the center take no damage at all. So I'm also moving up my artillery, getting it out in the open where it's going to do more damage, and also a little closer. You have to be a little careful when you start moving units into the open. There's a lot of 3-star artillery on the field that can come after you really quick if you mess up. Like, uh, changing my mind on which Loomis and Wagner, which one was going into the trees versus into the center, cost me a little bit. Like that unit should already be in position and hopefully hidden. I'd really like Wagner to be taking the fire from those 3-star brigades and not Loomis, just because I'm trying to get more, trying to build up Loomis's size, and every volley I take is rather expensive to resolve. So I'm also sending some speed scout infantry along both sides just to make sure there's nothing up there and to hopefully draw some fire if there is something there. They're cheaper to replace than the infantry. So we get charged, but we pull up some really good infantry on to put flanking fire into them. So should probably be able to stop that, or at least so damage it that it won't matter. They're also charging right into my best melee unit, so that is actually, if they would get there, that actually wouldn't be too bad. You can see we have about an hour left, and they've mostly abandoned the woods south of their victory point, which means it's going to be a pretty easy capture. And then we're just destroying these units in the open. Fortunately, he does get into melee. We get the charge off, or the fire off, Then I think we take more damage from friendly fire than we did from those units, from their unit. So I'm running the infantry to get into cover before I take the volley. And then I'll put them off hold fire. So this is going pretty well. We want to avoid capturing the VP too early because the battle will end as soon as that contested timer ticks down. If you take the flag late, the battle won't end until after the contested timer ends, even if the main timer ends, so you can get a little bit extra time that way. So I'm moving up now. I think I'm actually a little early. But these units are all focused on the south now, so I want to try and hit them on their flanks. But they're going to start turning early. Like, Loomis should be backing up right now because he's going to take fire, and I just don't want to take casualties at all on him, so I should be backing up right now. And I find all their skirmishers in the corner. The skirmishers move all over the place in this battle. Sometimes if you go north of the little stream up there and get into the woods, you can spot them, and then the ship artillery will take care of them. But it's really varies a lot where those guys go. Now I'm trying to run backwards to get into cover before the cavalry arrives because I'm expecting them to do a lot of damage. So we're going to get a volley off before they arrive. Not enough to break them, but hopefully lower their morale because I'm not sure if they're going to charge me or not. I think if they charged me, it actually probably would have ended pretty badly for me. But they decided to put a volley into me and then leave. Cavalry charge AI is still probably the weakest of all the unit types at the moment. I'm not really sure what's going on, but they don't seem to want to charge a whole lot. Making more mistakes with Loomis because since I had to back off from that cavalry unit, Wagner's not in a position to hit Chalmers, so I'm taking a lot of extra fire. But we're on the flanks of the rest of those units, starting to push them back. We had to retreat away from Jackson's brigade, which is not a great scenario because now he's going to be on our flank. But we can run our 3-star unit over there to hit him, and hopefully we can get rid of him. And if anyone's going to take volleys from that unit, that scout unit is definitely who I want it to be. Fortunately, I should have backed Brooks up while that was happening because now that unit's going to be on his flank. And oddly enough, he's actually... I'm not sure why he's turning sideways and moving to get to me. Like, oddly enough, that was actually a really good play by the AI because he both gets a flank shot and gets himself back into cover. That's actually fairly unusual for the AI to do. Not sure what caused that, but good play by him. So going to try and get him out of there, and then we can move up. You can see we're having trouble spotting the units in the north of the map. The vision is really weird up there. But hopefully if we move up further in the south, we'll get access to it. And I'm going to move the snipers around into that open area because they have the best spotting on the field. So hopefully they'll be able to see it. Once again, move Loomis forward when I really shouldn't have, and that routing volley just deals yet more damage to a unit that I was trying to keep relatively intact. And at this point, we're almost back to where we started before I started putting veterans and stuff into him. Much rather have Wagner take that damage. So we've mostly got our surround. We can't quite get forward on the right flank because Jackson will hit us. I should take a volley, just turning. I'm not actually sure if Anderson is, like, how good his cover is there. I think it's not good, but I'm not certain. So I'm going to try moving up again. got a couple units routed. If we can make the next step to get our units in the west back into the trees, then we'll have them. I do move on to the point a little early, I think. I probably should have slid Tyler's unit, swapped him with Scales to get a unit to be able to move up, who I was happy taking fire. So hopefully we're going to route all this, because I really don't want any of those units to land into melee. We're pretty fortunate to break those units. AI is being very aggressive here for some reason. Not really sure why. Probably just because I'm assuming these units have close to 100 melee and efficiency, so they have a lot of melee power compared to my units. And so, well, they've decided charging is the way to go. And in terms of like actually inflicting a lot of casualties on me, if they landed that charge, that probably would be the most optimal way for them to do it. So now I'm running everything up. I want to capture the supplies and see if I can finish off these skirmishers in the few minutes we have remaining. If I'd taken the flag a little later, we probably could ensure that we'd get them all. But we do get the wagon, and we're going to get most of the skirmishers, if not all of them. And there we go. So that's probably about double the casualties that I really wanted to get, especially on the units, on my more experienced units. But we got almost all of them. Got the wagon, which is pretty unusual on this map. And you can see we did all right. Snipers are performing well. Infantry is working about as you'd expect. And the numbers you don't see is, I think the riverboats inflicted somewhere around 4,000 casualties, so they were a little ridiculous. For whatever reason, they have 500 men in this battle, and I think in most other battles they only have 100, so I think that's why the damage is just so high here. But, well, we capture some useful weapons, and while the casualties were higher than I wanted, they're still very low. These series of side battles are all going to be pretty easy. The AI is just incredibly passive on all of them if you know what to do, so they aren't going to be much of a challenge. But Gaines Mill, I think, is going to be considerably more difficult. So we did get a ton of experience just because the battle's fairly short, but we're moving up with all of those. So I'm going to dump some more veterans in and go on to the next battle and try and do the same thing and just get fewer and fewer losses and get ourselves into real good shape for Big Gaines Mill. Oh, right. The very interesting thing here is they got weapons. So the Confederates are up to 40 armory and almost 60 training already, which I think is actually going to make things pretty hard. So that's actually, in some ways, a good thing, because the Union campaign tends to peter out a little bit after like Malvern Hill. It just isn't particularly difficult in a lot of cases. So I'm actually kind of interested to see how this is going to go if the AI gets really good weapons and really good troops early on. Maybe they can inflict enough losses to slow me down enough to keep this interesting. But we'll see how it goes. That was it. Thanks for watching.